An extreme heat wave is continuing to swelter across most of the country today, and hundreds of heat warnings remain in effect from coast to coast. Alberta remains under full alert, with temperatures there expected to reach up to 37 degrees. Interior BC is also expected to see the heat reach up to 40 degrees over the next few days. In northern Saskatchewan, residents can expect temperatures in the mid-30s. And in the east, heat warnings are now in effect across most of Atlantic Canada. And Brett Ruskin is in Halifax with more on that under some of this heat. And Brett, there are now weather alerts in effect across most of Atlantic Canada. What kind of heat are we expecting to see in that part of the country today?
It's going to get hot, Chris. It's not going to get, record-breaking hot heat likely because we are going to see possibly some rain come in and cut down that heat. But as of right now, heat warnings throughout Nova Scotia. We actually have a map that shows the extent of the heat warning. So all of Nova Scotia under a heat warning, most of New Brunswick under a heat warning, all of Prince Edward Island as well. Some spots up in Newfoundland, Labrador as well that are under this heat warning. So temperature-wise, looking at around 30 degrees in Halifax, 31 in Moncton and Fredericton, 29 degrees in Charlottetown. That is even before you factor in the humidex, so the dew point and the humidity. So that is going to make it feel quite muggy. It's already feeling muggy. You can kind of see behind me the fog that's in the air, possibly changing to showers later on, but it's muggy right now already in the Halifax area. So again, heat warnings issued yesterday from Environment Canada that stayed in effect throughout the evening, obviously, and really are the main reference in those heat warnings across the Maritimes is today being the hot time, or the hottest day of those alerts, Chris.
We appreciate you being out there in this muggy weather, Brett. Let's talk about some reminders worth repeating. And I really mean that because I think in the summer heat, it's so easy to lose track of time. So let's talk about what people should be doing to keep safe as these temperatures continue to soar in the next few days.
Sure, yeah. Environment Canada reminding folks to take action and take preventative measures in these extreme heat events, not to schedule those strenuous outdoor activities, perhaps in the middle of the day in the hot sun, to stay out of the sun for prolonged periods of time if you can, and that these extreme heat events can affect everyone differently and can affect everyone differently on different days as well. So 31 one day might not necessarily feel as nice or as hot as 31 another day. So just to be cautious, drink lots of fluids, get out of the sun if you're feeling dizzy or if you're feeling tired. And there's also, we're watching here on the East Coast if we're going to see the same measures that we're seeing out at West and that we have seen previously, with some cooling centers opened up or outdoor pool and splash pad hours changed. So watching for that in the Halifax area as well as across the Maritimes to see if local governments need to step in if it's going to get hot enough for those extreme heat measures to kick in. Chris.
All right, thanks for that update, Brett. Go hydrate now. The extreme heat is also continuing to soar across Alberta, and Julia Wong in Edmonton has the latest on what those in Western Canada can expect as they wake up to another day of intense temperatures.
Much of Alberta remains under a heat warning today. Temperatures today will be in their low 30s, but they will be rising to their mid-30s by the middle of the week. With temperatures this hot, there have been lots of reminders for people to check in on seniors who may be living alone, to check in on vulnerable peoples. And community organizations, some of them have said they will be driving around, handing out water to those who need it, handing out food, offering rides to shelters so people can get a break from the heat. Now, otherwise, Edmontonians are doing what they can to stay cool, whether that's going to an outdoor spray park or an outdoor pool, but there are mixed feelings about this heat.
This is what summer's about. I mean, we have pretty long, cold winter, so it's kind of nice to have a few months of super hot weather and, get outside and hang out all day.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be try to keep them occupied, try to find cool places. It's going to be a challenge.
With this heat wave that we're experiencing, air conditioning companies are seeing an influx of calls. One company tells CBC News that they're getting calls from people wanting to install new units, and they're also getting service calls to get existing units repaired or fully up and running.
I'd say they've probably gone up around 50% from what they were prior to this heat wave coming in. And, the schedule's starting to book up. We're booking some last-minute calls.
The city of Edmonton has activated its extreme heat response. That means that peace officers are going around handing out water bottles to those who need it. And they're also encouraging people to use city facilities like pools or recreation centers if they need a place to cool down. The extreme heat response will be in effect until Friday. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
A heat wave gripping much of British Columbia is expected to last until midweek. Environment Canada is forecasting temperatures in the high 30s and low 40s along the southern parts of the province and the interior. Lindsay Duncombe has more on this story.
Well, here in Vancouver, people are waking up to what is expected to be the peak heat day of this heat wave that has much of Western Canada in its grips. Here in Vancouver, near the water, temperatures could get close to 30 degrees, even warmer when you go inland. There are more than 40 different heat warnings and advisories issued by Environment Canada, and the hottest part of the province is in the interior. In fact, communities there could reach the low 40 degrees Celsius temperatures today. And this is all really the first real heat wave we've had this season after a relatively cool and damp spring. So the warning from officials is for people to take it easy, to go to those cooling centers if they don't have air conditioning, to check in on vulnerable people, especially seniors. And when it's this hot, there's another concern, and that is, what is the risk of forest fires? Certainly, that is something that people throughout this province will be watching for and worrying about as the day goes on. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.